The night on the colony of Arion 9 was never truly dark. Neon lights glowed over metal streets and machines hummed even after midnight. Evan Cole sat alone in his repair shop, wiping grease from his hands. The air smelled of oil and warm circuits. It had been a long day, but one worker was still there, the quiet alien woman named Lyra. Evan watched her from his desk. She was small, silver-skinned, with faint blue veins glowing beneath her wrists. Her eyes, pale like ice, never met anyone's. She worked in silence, fixing broken circuit panels with delicate hands. Every night she stayed longer than the others. Every morning she came earlier than anyone else. No one ever saw her rest. At first Evan thought she was just hard-working, but lately something about her felt off. Her hands sometimes trembled when she thought no one was looking. Once he saw a flash of light in her palms, like energy moving under her skin. She quickly hid her hands inside her sleeves, pretending nothing happened. He didn't ask questions. Most alien workers on the colony had secrets. Still, curiosity burned in him like a slow flame. Why did she never sleep? Why did she always look so tired? And why did her eyes carry sadness that no one could name? That night, as the clock hit midnight, the last of the workers left. Only the sound of a soft humming machine filled the room. Lyra was still bent over a broken power cell, her hair falling over her face. Evan stood near the door, pretending to clean, just to see what she would do when alone. Minutes passed. Then she sighed softly, a fragile sound that didn't belong in a place of metal and engines. She touched the broken cell again. A faint blue light spread from her fingers, flowing into the dead metal. The cell blinked once, then twice, and came alive with a warm pulse. Evan froze. No tools, no wires, just her energy. Lyra looked around quickly, her eyes sharp. Evan ducked behind a stack of crates. She didn't see him. After a few seconds, she wiped her face, hid the cell inside a bag, and walked toward the exit. Evan's heart pounded. He had seen something impossible. The law was strict. Energy manipulation without license was forbidden. People had been arrested for less. But what was she doing? Fixing old cells at night? Why? He should have gone home. He should have locked up and forgotten. But his hands moved before his mind decided. He grabbed his jacket and slipped out quietly, keeping distance between them. The streets outside were cold and wet from the mist of the cooling towers. Lyra walked fast, her cloak tight around her. The path led through narrow alleys lit by flickering signs. Evan followed, his footsteps silent, his breath shallow. She passed the food district, the sleeping quarters, then deeper, into the slums near the edge of the colony. Few humans went there. Rusted doors, broken drones, and dim lights marked this forgotten place. Lyra stopped near an abandoned factory. She looked around carefully, then slipped inside through a cracked door. Evan waited a moment, then followed. Inside, the air was thick with dust. Old generator parts lay scattered. In the corner, he saw her kneel beside a pile of scrap. She opened her bag and pulled out the glowing power cell. Evan's eyes widened as she began to whisper in her language, soft and musical. Her hands touched the metal gently and light spread again. Broken panels started to hum faintly. The air filled with warmth. She wasn't just fixing machines. She was giving them life with her own energy. Then small shapes moved in the shadows. Children. Thin, alien children with the same faint blue glow in their veins. They ran toward her, smiling weakly. She smiled back, tired but kind, and handed them small lamps she had powered. Evan stepped back, shock running through him. She was using her strength to bring light to these children. He could see her shaking, nearly falling, but she kept smiling. She wasn't earning money for herself. She was helping others survive in the dark. When she finally stood, her steps were weak. She leaned against the wall, breathing heavily. The blue glow in her skin dimmed. Evan almost went to her, but fear stopped him. If she saw him, she might run or vanish forever. She looked up once toward the cracked ceiling where moonlight fell, whispering something he couldn't hear. Then she turned and left the factory, walking back toward the colony streets. Evan stayed there for a long time, staring at the softly glowing lights she left behind. The realization hit him hard. The woman who never slept was not just working to survive. She was saving lives in secret. He stepped out into the cold air, his heart heavy with something new. Respect, confusion, and a strange feeling of guilt. He had watched her work every day without ever seeing who she truly was. That night, under the neon sky, Evan made a silent promise. Tomorrow, He would find out the truth about the woman who never slept. The next night came quietly, wrapped in the dull hum of engines and distant thunder from the colony towers. Evan Cole sat at his workbench, pretending to repair an old plasma wrench. His eyes kept drifting to the far corner where Lyra worked as always, calm, steady, and silent. Her silver skin shimmered faintly under the workshop lights, and the blue veins beneath her wrists pulsed softly like living circuits. He couldn't forget what he had seen, the glowing hands, the hidden children, the broken factory that came alive under her touch. Now he understood why she always looked so tired. But questions twisted inside him like tangled wires. How long had she been doing this? Why didn't anyone know? And how was she still standing after giving away so much of herself every night? When the shift ended, Lyra wiped her hands, packed her small tool bag, and bowed her head to him politely. "Good night, Master Evan," she said softly, her voice calm but empty. Evan forced a nod. "Night, Lyra, get some rest." But both knew she wouldn't. As the shop lights dimmed, Evan stepped outside after her, careful to keep distance. The neon streets of Area 9 glowed blue and violet, painted with mist from the cooling vents. The colony never slept. Vendors whispered under flickering lamps, androids marched in silence, and the smell of metal mixed with burnt air. Lyra's small figure moved quickly through the fog, her cloak fluttering behind her. Evan followed, his boots quiet against the steel walkway. Each step he took pulled him deeper into the colony's forgotten underbelly, past the shops, the food stalls, and the laughter of the living, into the zones where light flickered weakly and the air felt colder. He saw her pause once to cough, clutching her side as if in pain. Then she pushed herself forward again. Evan felt something twist in his chest. She was running on nothing but willpower. Minutes later, she reached the same abandoned sector he'd seen last night. But this time she didn't go to the old factory. She moved behind it into a narrow tunnel hidden by debris. He hesitated for a moment, then slipped inside after her. The tunnel walls glowed faintly blue from power leaks. He kept to the shadows, hearing her footsteps echo softly ahead. The air was thick, humid, and filled with the scent of burnt ozone. Then the tunnel opened into a vast underground space. Evan froze. Before him was a hidden network of old energy conduits, hundreds of dead generators connected by glowing cords. Lyra stood in the center, kneeling on the floor, surrounded by broken cells and dim lamps. Around her, alien children were curled under blankets made of old cloth. Their faces were pale, eyes wide and hopeful. She smiled weakly at them. "It will be bright again soon," she whispered. Evan watched as she pressed her palms against the cold metal of a generator core. Her hands began to glow, soft blue light spreading through the cables like veins awakening after long sleep. The room brightened, humming with gentle warmth. The children gasped with joy, their little lamps flickering back to life. Lyra's body trembled violently. Sweat ran down her neck and her glow flickered. Still, she didn't stop. Evan stepped forward without thinking. "Lyra, stop," he hissed. She jerked around, startled, her eyes wide in terror. "You followed me?" she whispered, voice cracking. He raised his hands. "I'm not here to hurt you. I just needed to understand." Her face softened for a moment, then hardened again. "You shouldn't be here," she said. "If they find this place, these children will be taken. They will call me a criminal." Evan shook his head. "You're saving lives." Her gaze fell to the trembling children. "Not for long. My energy fades. Every night I give a little more. Soon there will be nothing left of me." The words hit him like a punch. He looked around at the tiny glowing faces. They depended on her, on this one woman who never slept, never complained, never asked for help. "Why don't you tell someone?" he asked. "We could get help, proper power cells." "No," she said sharply. "The government banned my kind from using energy abilities after the war. If they know I still can, they will take me away. I'd rather die free than live in their labs." Her voice trembled, but her eyes burned with quiet strength. Evan didn't speak for a while. The hum of machines filled the silence. Then slowly he took off his jacket and placed it over her shoulders. "Then I'll help you," he said. "You won't do this alone anymore." She looked at him, confused. No one had ever said that to her before. "You don't even know me," she whispered. He smiled faintly. "I don't need to. I saw what you do when no one's watching. That's enough." For the first time, she let a small tear roll down her cheek, glowing faintly blue in the dark. When they left the tunnel later that night, the lights behind them glowed stronger than before, and somewhere above the colony's sky, a single drone light blinked red, recording every moment. Someone was watching them, and their secret was no longer safe. Morning came quietly over the colony, its pale light filtering through layers of metal roofs and mist. Evan Cole sat at his workbench, but his mind was somewhere else entirely. Every sound, the hiss of steam, the crackle of circuits, reminded him of the night before, of Lyra kneeling among the children, her glowing hands trembling as she gave away her own energy to bring light to their world. He hadn't slept. He couldn't. He kept hearing her words, "Soon there will be nothing left of me." When Lyra entered the shop that morning, she looked as calm as ever. Her movements were steady, her voice quiet when she greeted him, but Evan could see the cracks beneath that calm mask. Her eyes were dimmer. Her skin had lost its faint glow. "Morning, Master Evan," she said softly, like she always did. He nodded, pretending everything was normal. "Morning, Lyra, you're early again." "I like to start early," she replied. Work keeps the mind still, but her hands shook slightly when she picked up her tools. As the day passed, Evan kept stealing glances at her. The other workers laughed, argued, and took breaks, but she never joined them. She didn't even eat. When someone offered her food, she smiled politely and said, "I already ate." But Evan knew that was a lie. He had seen the truth. She saved every credit for the children. That night, when the last worker left, Evan decided he couldn't stay silent anymore. "Lyra," he said gently. As she was packing up her bag, she froze. "Yes?" "I followed you again last night," he said. "I saw everything." Her expression went cold, but her eyes filled with fear. "You shouldn't have," she whispered. "You don't understand." "I understand enough," he said. "You're giving your life away to power machines and feed children. You'll die if you keep this up." She turned away, her voice barely a breath. "They need me. I cannot stop." Evan took a step closer. "Then let me help you." Her head snapped around. "Help me? You'll only put yourself in danger. Humans get rewarded for turning in my kind. You could lose your shop if anyone finds out." He crossed his arms. "Then I'll lose it." For a moment, silence filled the workshop. Only the hum of the generator broke the air. Lyra's lips trembled as if she wanted to say something, but then she simply shook her head and left. When the door closed, Evan exhaled slowly. He had meant every word, but the truth was, danger was already closing in. Because far above them, in the surveillance tower of Arian 9, a monitor flickered to life. A drone had recorded last night's glow in the lower tunnels. The colony security chief narrowed his eyes at the image of Lyra kneeling beside the generator. "Unauthorized energy discharge," he muttered. "Class C violation. Alien offender." He tapped the screen. "Mark and track." Down below, unaware of the danger, Lyra walked toward the slums again that night. Evan followed, this time not hiding. When she reached the tunnel entrance, she turned. "You shouldn't have come," she said. "I told you," he replied. "I'm not leaving you alone," she sighed. "You are stubborn, human." He smiled faintly. "I've been called worse." Together they entered the tunnels. The air was heavy, humming with quiet energy. The children rushed to greet her, hugging her legs, smiling with tired eyes. Lyra touched their heads gently, her hands glowing faintly blue. But Evan noticed something strange. Her light was weaker than before. Each time she powered a lamp, her skin dimmed a little more. Sweat rolled down her temple and her breathing grew shallow. "Stop, Lyra," he said, kneeling beside her. "You're killing yourself." She shook her head. "They have no power, no heat. Without me, they'll freeze before dawn." He grabbed her wrist, feeling the faint vibration of her energy. "Then let me help. Teach me what to do." Her eyes widened. "You can't, only my kind can transfer energy." "Then use mine," he said quickly. "Take it if it helps." Lyra stared at him in shock, as if no one had ever said such words before. Slowly she touched his hand. A faint spark passed between them, not painful but deep, like warmth traveling through skin and soul. For a moment her eyes glowed brighter again. "Your spirit burns strange, human," she whispered. "But kind." Evan smiled tiredly. "Guess that makes us both strange." As they worked together, the tunnel filled once again with light and warmth. The children laughed softly, curling under glowing lamps. For the first time, Lyra didn't look like a tired worker. She looked like a mother of stars. But far above them, red lights blinked on the scanners. The colony guards had locked onto her energy signature. Dozens of drones turned toward the lower sector, and in the next few hours, the woman who never slept would be hunted. The storm began before dawn, sweeping across the metal roofs of Area 9. Lightning flashed between the towers, and thunder rolled through the streets like the growl of some ancient beast. Evan Cole stood by the window of his small workshop, staring at the rain. He hadn't gone home. He hadn't even tried to sleep. Every hour, security patrols flew past his window, dark drones with red eyes scanning the alleys. They were searching for her. He could feel it. By the time the morning bell rang, he saw Lyra walking down the street, her cloak soaked from the rain. She looked thinner than ever, her steps slow but steady. When she entered the workshop, she greeted him quietly, her voice almost gone. "Morning, Master Evan," she said, pretending not to notice the news bulletins flashing behind him. Energy thief at large, blue-veined species suspected. Evan switched off the holo screen. "You shouldn't be here, Lyra," he said firmly. "They're looking for you." Her hands tightened on the edge of her bag. "They've looked for me before. I know how to hide." "This time it's different," he said. "The drones recorded your energy signature." She froze. The color drained from her face. For a second, she looked like a frightened child. Then slowly she lifted her head again, calm but hollow. "Then I will not run," she said quietly. "Running never saved anyone." Evan stepped closer. "If they find you here, they'll shut my shop down. They'll take you, maybe worse." Her eyes softened. "You should let them." "It's not your fight." But he shook his head. "It became my fight the moment I followed you." The sound of the rain filled the silence between them. Then faintly, the deep hum of approaching engines echoed outside. Lyra's breath caught. "Patrol," Evan whispered. He grabbed her hand. "Come with me." He led her to the basement, down a narrow stairwell that smelled of metal and dust. The walls were lined with old spare parts and half-broken drones. He closed the hatch above them, just as bright light swept across the windows upstairs. Lyra stood against the wall, trembling slightly. "You should not risk this," she said. "They'll scan your building." Evan crouched beside her. "Then we'll give them nothing to find." He reached for his console, typing commands into an old jammer that once blocked radio waves. "This will scramble their sensors for a few minutes." She looked at him, confused.
"Why would you help someone like me?"
He turned to her, meeting her eyes. "Because you help children no one else cares about. Because you work double shifts to feed them instead of yourself. Because you're the only one in this colony who still believes light should belong to everyone." For a long moment, she didn't speak. Then her voice cracked softly. "You don't understand, Evan. I'm not supposed to use this power. My people signed the Energy Accord. We were forced to give up our birthright after the war. They fear us. They think our energy corrupts the machines." He frowned. "But you use it to heal, not destroy." "They don't care," she whispered. "To them I am already guilty." The sound of boots echoed above, metal striking metal. Guards. Evan looked up, jaw tight. "Stay here." He climbed back up the stairs and opened the door slightly. 2 armored officers stood in the rain, their visors glowing red. "Evan Cole?" one of them asked. "Yes," Evan said carefully. "We detected an unauthorized energy pulse near this area last night. Mind if we take a look?" Evan forced a tired smile. "I've been here all night fixing drones. Must be interference from my equipment." The officer glanced around. "We'll check." As they stepped inside, Evan's heart pounded. Down below, Lyra could hear every footstep. Her hands clenched, faint blue light flickering under her skin. She could burn through the floor and escape. But that would expose her again. Then an idea sparked. Evan turned suddenly toward the nearest console. "You want an energy pulse?" he said quickly. "Here." He pressed a button and one of his old generators sparked violently, glowing with blue light. The scanners beeped. The officers turned toward the machine. "See?" Evan said. "Faulty cell. I've been trying to stabilize it." The guards exchanged a glance. One nodded. "Fine, but stay alert. If you see anyone using energy abilities, report them immediately." When the door finally closed behind them, Evan collapsed into the chair, shaking. He went back down to the basement. Lyra stared at him wide-eyed. "You took the blame," she whispered. He smiled weakly. "Wouldn't be the first time I broke a rule for something worth saving." Her lips trembled and tears filled her eyes, bright blue, shimmering like starlight. You could lose everything, she said. Maybe, he said softly. But at least I'll lose it for a reason that matters. For a moment, they just stood there, the rain roaring above like 1,000 drums. Lyra stepped closer, placing a trembling hand on his chest. If I survive this, she whispered, I'll make sure your name is remembered among my people. Evan covered her hand with his own. Let's just focus on surviving first. But outside the storm grew louder. Drones hovered again, scanning the sector. Their red lights painted the rain in streaks of warning, and though neither of them spoke it aloud, both knew the truth. The confrontation wasn't over. It had only just begun. The next few days felt like living inside a ticking clock. Every hour, every sound outside the workshop made Evan Cole flinch. The colony guards had tightened patrols. Drones hovered longer near his shop windows. He tried to act normal, repairing customer parts and smiling at clients, but his eyes kept drifting to the hidden basement door. Beneath that door was the secret that could destroy both their lives. Lyra stayed below, silent and unseen. The only light in that basement came from her hands. She spent her hours fixing broken lamps and tiny heaters for the children, using what little energy she still had left. Her glow was weaker now, faint like a dying candle. One evening, when the sun dipped behind the metal towers, Evan brought her a bowl of hot soup. You need to eat, he said softly. You can't live on light alone. She smiled faintly. I used to think humans had no patience, she whispered. But you wait for me every night, he chuckled quietly. I'm a mechanic. Waiting for broken things to work again is my job. Her laughter was soft, almost musical, but it faded quickly when a siren wailed in the distance. Lyra's eyes widened. Evan rushed upstairs and peered through the window. 3 armored vehicles had stopped at the corner of the street. Dozens of guards stepped out, scanning every building. The lead officer carried a holographic tablet showing an image, a silver-skinned woman with glowing veins. Lyra. They were getting closer. Evan's pulse raced. He turned off the lights, locked the door, and hurried back down. They're here, he whispered. Lyra's face went pale. You should let them take me, she said quietly. They'll find out soon. It's only a matter of time. No, he said firmly. You saved lives. You don't deserve to die for it. She looked down at her trembling hands. I broke the law, Evan, my energy. It's forbidden. I'm not supposed to exist like this. Then the law is wrong, he said. And I'll prove it. Footsteps echoed outside. Evan's mind raced. He remembered an old smuggler's shaft beneath the floor, a leftover from the colony's early mining days. He knelt and pulled off a rusted panel, revealing a narrow tunnel. Go, he said. Follow it to the old vent lines. It'll take you to the Undercity. But she shook her head. You'll be caught helping me, he smiled faintly. Then I'll give them something to find. Before she could stop him, he ran upstairs. The guards burst through the door moments later. Evan Cole, their commander barked. We detected another illegal energy discharge here. Evan raised his hands. That was me, he said calmly. The officer frowned. You? You're human. I was experimenting with hybrid energy tools, he lied. I didn't report the tests. You can arrest me if you want. The commander scanned him, confused by the lack of alien energy signature. You realize this confession could end your license and close your shop? Evan nodded. Yeah, I know. Down below, Lyra could hear everything. Her heart thudded painfully. He was sacrificing everything for her. The guards took him away in silence, leaving the shop dark and empty. Hours later, Lyra crawled out from the basement, tears glimmering in her eyes. The workshop smelled of oil and rain, but without Evan it felt lifeless. She found his jacket hanging on the chair, still warm. She sat in his chair, her fingers tracing the old burn marks on the desk. Why would you do this? She whispered. You foolish, stubborn human. Outside lightning flashed again, painting the city in blue light. She looked toward the tower where the guards took him. In her mind, she could still feel the warmth of his hand, the pulse of his heart when he told her, You won't do this alone anymore. Something inside her broke, and something else awakened. The fear that had chained her for years burned away. She stood, eyes glowing brighter than they had in days. No more hiding, she said. No more silence. She pulled her cloak around her shoulders, stepped out into the storm, and vanished into the shadows of the city. By midnight, whispers spread through the lower districts. The energy thief is back. The lights in the slums are glowing again. Someone is defying the colony. And in his cold prison cell, Evan lifted his head weakly as the power flickered. And for the first time since his arrest, he smiled. He knew that glow. She was coming. The colony of Area 9 was drowning in darkness. A power surge had struck the main grid the night after Evan Cole's arrest. Half the districts lost heat, light, and oxygen support. The rich sealed their towers. The poor shivered in the streets. Machines stalled midair. The hum of life faded into cold silence. And somewhere in the chaos, a faint blue glow began to move through the storm. It was Lyra. Her cloak was torn. Her skin dim and pale, but her eyes burned with steady light. She moved through the rain like a ghost, each step leaving a trail of faint sparks on the wet metal ground. The people of the slums watched her pass, whispering in awe. Is that her? The Light Mother? No, she's real. But she didn't hear them. All she could hear was Evan's voice echoing in her mind. You won't do this alone anymore. She reached the edge of the power station, the heart of the colony. Guards surrounded it, weapons drawn, afraid of what they didn't understand. The main generator was dead, its plasma core cracked and leaking dark fumes. Without it, the colony would freeze within hours. Lyra stepped into the open. Let me through, she said. The commander turned, eyes narrowing. You're the outlaw. I am the only one who can save your people, she said calmly. Move. The guards hesitated. Fear and pride warred in their eyes. But when the temperature dropped another degree and the lights flickered out completely, desperation won. The commander stepped aside, muttering, If you fail, we'll all die anyway. Lyra entered the station. The air inside was thick with static. The generator loomed above her, a wounded beast of metal and light. It hissed and sparked, too unstable for human hands to repair. She knelt before it, laying her palms on the fractured core. Her veins began to glow again, brighter and brighter until her whole body shimmered like liquid light. Energy flowed from her heart into the machine. At first, nothing happened. Then the core pulsed. Once. Twice. A soft hum filled the air, but the machine demanded more than she had left. Her body shook violently as the energy drained from her veins. Pain tore through her bones. Sparks danced across her skin. She gasped, whispering to herself, for the children, for the light, for him. Outside, people looked up as the skies began to glow. The broken towers flickered back to life one by one. Streetlights returned, soft and golden. The colony exhaled, but inside the core chamber, Lyra was collapsing. The commander rushed in. She's burning herself alive. Lyra barely heard him. Her vision blurred, but through the haze she saw something. A memory. Evan's smile, warm and stubborn. His promise to help. His hand on hers, she smiled weakly. Worth it, she whispered. And then the light exploded. A wave of blue energy burst from the power station, rolling across the colony like dawn. For a moment, the whole world glowed. The rain turned to silver mist. The stars above seemed to bow closer. When it faded, the city lights stayed on. The generator was stable. The people cheered. But Lyra was gone. Only a faint blue mark glowed where she had knelt. A handprint burned into the metal floor. Hours later, in his cold prison cell, Evan awoke to the sound of electricity humming again. He sat up, blinking as a soft, familiar light glowed through the small window. A guard rushed in out of breath. The grid's back, the guard shouted. A woman restored it, one of the blue-veined species. They're calling her the Light Mother. Evan's throat tightened. Where is she? The guard hesitated. She didn't survive. For a long moment, Evan said nothing. The world outside his cell was alive again, bright and warm. Yet all he felt was the cold emptiness inside him. Then softly he whispered, No, she's not gone. Because in that moment he realized the lights flickering above him had a rhythm, soft and steady like a heartbeat, like hers, somewhere in the city's endless current. Her energy lived on, and in that heartbeat, humanity and alien kind were no longer enemies. They were one light, shared and unbreakable. Outside, people gathered around the glowing power station, whispering prayers and songs. The children she once cared for lit candles and held them high, their small faces shining. In their reflection, the blue light never faded, and though the woman who never slept was gone, her light was everywhere, in every spark, every hum, every living thing that refused to give up. The sky above Area 9 glowed for 3 days. The aurora that burst from the power station refused to die. It shimmered over the colony in soft blue waves, painting the metal towers with color that no storm could wash away. People called it the breath of Lyra. Children whispered her name like a prayer. Down in the prison complex, Evan Cole sat in silence, his hands clasped together. The light from the sky seeped through the small window, brushing his face with faint warmth. For the first time in weeks, the air didn't feel heavy. The hum of generators had returned, the same hum she'd given her life to restore. A guard opened the cell door. "Cole," he said quietly. "You're free. Orders from the High Council. Turns out you were protecting a hero." Evan didn't move at first. The words sounded far away. "She's gone?" he asked softly. The guard hesitated. "No body was found. Just light." Evan stood slowly. "Then she's not gone." Outside the prison, the colony was unrecognizable. The once cold towers were draped with banners showing a glowing handprint. The same one burned into the metal floor of the power station. People gathered around candles, whispering stories of the Light Mother who saved them all. As Evan walked through the crowd, faces turned toward him. Some recognized him from the old workshop. Some simply saw the exhaustion in his eyes and bowed silently. He made his way to the power station. The gates were open now, no guards, no weapons. Inside, the core pulsed gently, stable and bright. The handprint glowed on the floor like a frozen moment of her touch. He knelt beside it. "You did it, Lyra," he whispered. "You really did it." The air was warm here, almost alive. He closed his eyes and imagined her standing beside him. The silver skin, the quiet eyes, the tired smile she never lost. A soft sound pulled him from his thoughts. Behind him stood the alien children she had protected. They were holding lanterns made from old power cells, glowing faintly blue. "She told us to keep the lights burning," the oldest said. "So no one forgets." Evan smiled weakly. "Then let's make sure they never do." He spent the next months rebuilding the workshop, not for machines but for people. He turned the upper floor into a shelter for the children, teaching them how to repair things the way Lyra had. They called it the Sanctuary of Sparks. Word spread across Area 9 and beyond. Traders, refugees, and even soldiers came to see the place where a single outlawed alien had reignited an entire world. Humans and aliens worked side by side, powered by the same light. One evening, as the sun dipped below the towers, Evan stood on the balcony watching the city lights blink to life. The glow that covered the colony was softer now, but it never faded completely. It pulsed like a slow, endless heartbeat. He spoke quietly to the wind. "You said I'd be remembered among your people, but it's you they'll remember, Lyra." Then faintly, the lights along the street flickered once, just once, soft, deliberate. Evan froze, then smiled. "Yeah," he whispered. "I see you." Somewhere far above the colony, satellites recorded the energy pulse. It matched no known signal. Scientists called it echo light, a phenomenon that appeared only above Area 9. But those who knew her story didn't call it science. They called it a promise kept. Years later, children still told tales of the alien woman who never slept, who poured her soul into the machines so others could live. And they spoke of the human who followed her into the shadows and learned what light really meant. Together, their story spread beyond one world, becoming a legend of the frontier, the Light Mother and the Mechanic. A forbidden friendship that saved a colony, a human heart and an alien spirit beating as one. And on clear nights, when the sky of Area 9 shimmered blue, travelers swore they saw two figures in the light, a man with grease-stained hands and a woman made of starlight, walking side by side beneath the endless glow they created together. The woman who never slept had finally found her rest, and the man who once followed her footsteps had found his peace. The colony never went dark again, because some lights once lit never fade.